Hey, we're back. And joining us now is Mr. Matt Marash. How are you, Matt?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Matt, this is almost like being in person.
It's pretty close. I'm cool with this. At least, if I can't do anything else, this is cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a soft diffusion light on you?
Oh, I do. This is like
beautiful.
the same setup. Oh, thank you. This is the same setup I use for my my YouTube videos.
Yep.
And Canon. I hate to sound like a shill, but like Canon just released this this free firmware thing for their DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. So I just have a Canon mirrorless running through a USB cord right into my computer. So it's pulling HD through, and it looks. I mean, it's better than any webcam I can get my hands on. So
we look like we're in a bunker. You and I, Mike.
The first thing I noticed was the beautiful lighting and the fact that the background is like nice and out of focus.
It needs to be because it's my garage.
Oh, okay. And how did you have the camera in manual?
All manual. So I think I have the ISO with an auto range. So if I go too dark or light, and then the Canons and Sonys, they're the best at tracking your face. So if I come in, come out, it's gonna do. Yeah,
that's impressive.
Yeah. So I think this is gonna be the kit moving forward.
So you have a few topics 4x5. I mean, that's why you're here. Not that we don't like just hanging out with you and talking about the old days.
It's all right.
God, I wait for October. Wait for October. When you folks watching see the stuff that's in the vault for October, I'm talking about the CD Den zombie commercials.
Oh no!
The Armor Windows commercials featuring zombies.
Man.
The Meadowland Showcase Chiller Theater shows.
Yes.
Ooh.
Wow.
Those are good.
Crank.
Oh, we could bring Crank out before.
Oh, you did?
Matt, how is your YouTube series go? Large Format Friday. I saw that recently you rolled out your 10th episode.
Yeah, we're in the double digits now. Thanks.
Is it a planned series where you have a beginning and an end?
I don't have a defined end yet, but I have I didn't know this was a thing until like other people were like predicting that I had one. I have this little spreadsheet, and it's just, it's boring. If I think up a topic, I write it down. I try to order them in a, what makes logical sense, but I have more topics now than I did 2 weeks ago, and they shift around. So I try to film them in an order that makes sense, and it's going pretty good. I can see there's probably about a year's worth of topics, and if you make them more fractional and shorter, you can probably get more than that out of it. But it's really just I'm playing it as I go. I'm never more than 2 or 3 weeks ahead of myself because things change, and it's going good. One of the larger photo blogs. There's a guy in Columbus. He's a customer at Midwest Photo, and he noticed I was doing the videos. He's like, "Hey, could I write about this?" And I said, "Sure." He threw it up there, and so it's on F-stoppers now. And Mike, I know you know this, but like if something ends up on a photo blog, it's a double-edged sword. It's nice to see your stuff get a little bit more noticed, but just don't read the comments. Never read the comments on the blog post. Never.
Oh,
the worst of the worst comes out. And it's really funny because like people that comment on the videos, they have to click through, they have to have an account. So usually the people that leave comments on YouTube videos, unless they're really dedicated to the trolling arts, are like, they're usually genuine and good and thanks and everything. But the comments on the blog posts, they're totally anonymous, and there's some vitriol in there. So you just don't read those, and it's good.
Like what? What do they say? He didn't have the cap on the developer. He's not a real photographer.
There's a lot of those. This guy's got no idea what he's doing, and everybody always comments on like technical stuff, like nice garage. It's like whatever.
Oh boy.
I've had this position for years because I know a lot of other folks that are doing videos and YouTube series. It takes so much effort to do even what what we're doing here. It takes so much effort that somebody that can, like, from the convenience of their couch, probably not wearing pants, to just comment on the thing to tear it down, they don't want to put in that. So it's it's just different, and you have to accept it for what it is.
Yeah, good for you.
Thanks.
And it's great information that, as you know, I mean, the videos we did way back when, going over the Crown Graphic, I mean,
oh yeah,
they're timeless. This is information that now, next year, 10 years from now, is still going to be important to people who want to use vintage large format cameras. So
yeah, and that's really the whole point of it being there. And I will stand by that. These videos, if you've been doing this for a few years, there's maybe one or two things that might be new to you. But if you're just starting, like, this is the perfect thing. You subscribe, like, each week there's going to be a new little thing to go through. And I don't know anybody that's ever picked up a large format camera and they've mastered it within a week's time, right? You kind of evolve with it, you experiment, and there's such a disconnect between when you load it and you shoot it and you process it, that it makes sense to space things out over the course of weeks or months. And that's kind of the layout for it.
So let's hit your topics for the day, Matt.
Sure thing. We all know Jeff at 20th Century Camera. He's been making the 3D printed reels, Graflex parts. So like if you have a Graflex SLR or Graflok backs that you need little adapters or pieces for. But lately, for the last few months, he has been working tirelessly on some new designs for a convertible plate holder, which I think is just really, really interesting because wet plate, dry plate. Jason Lane has his dry plates out there. Everybody wants to, get their feet wet with this sort of thing. And finding vintage holders can be troublesome because they don't quite fit the standard 4x5 backs. Some of the really new manufactured ones can cost hundreds of dollars just for a holder, not even the other stuff, the chemicals and everything in the process. So Jeff has been 3D printing these plate holders. And the cool thing about them is they're now up to a modular design. So this is his latest version. It has like a real deal dark slide in there. So before it was a 3D printed one, and I thought those were still pretty good. They did a great job. But the cool thing about this plate holder is it has magnets, which is pretty cool. There's a little tensioner. So I pull this out. That's what puts the weight on my plate so it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't drift. But this whole portion in here is interchangeable. So there's this little frame. I can change out that frame. This piece right here, that's the magnet that clasps it shut. So click, it's all right in there. But probably the most exciting thing about it, aside from the newer design that sits flat and everything, is he now has different inserts for it. So Jeff sent me the standard insert, which is good for like the trophy aluminum plates. So for like wet plate. He also sent me a plate holder. So like this would be for if you have like a Jason Lane dry plate. So it has the right spacing for a glass dry plate, which will have a different, what's known as T distance, or distance to the ground glass. So basically, if you have a thicker piece of media that's going into it, and you're not compensating for the thickness of that, your focus might actually be off by like a smidge, like 1/10 of an inch or something. And when you're working with lenses that are really long in focal length, that depth of field is nil. So having the correct size insert is awesome. So he's got that, but that's not even the thing that I'm the most excited about with these holders.
There's more?
There is, but wait, there's more. He's got this nice little thing, and he mentioned it offhandedly, like I wouldn't be interested in it, but I'm actually like, this is my favorite thing. He also has this little insert right here, which is for Mike. This might get you shooting the crown a little bit more. It's for Fuji Instax wide.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So the frame you can see is the same size as your Fuji Instax wide. I'll try and get it to show up a little bit there. This little piece sits over it. So you have to load them one sheet at a time, which, right, dark tent or whatever, it's good. So this piece sits over top of it, and that reinserts into this frame here. So you can do single load. So you can buy a 10-pack of Instax wide, $10-12, and now you can shoot really, really clean looking portraits with a fast instant film like Instax wide.
That's
so
pretty awesome.
I think that's awesome.
That's really incredible.
So for someone who's interested in instant photography, who is interested in these various backs that have come out over the years for Instax, you break apart your packs, you load it in the dark.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You shoot it, but then what do you do to bust out bust out the gel to
get the
developers
chemicals to spread?
The thing, the thing.
Yeah, so the process is a little bit different, of course, than you're used to with your standard Instax wide, the big the big 210 plastic shoebox camera. But what you could do here is I would recommend having a changing bag, just kind of permanently set up for this situation. You have your Instax 210 cartridge in there. You take one sheet out at a time. You would single load it into so you take your tray, you pop it in the tray facing out. You'll push the back on there and load that up so it's one sheet at a time, and you leave the rest in a little black bag that you might have from large format films or darkroom paper, just one of those black bags. Keep it wrapped up in there, keep that in the bag, and after you expose all 10 shots, you load them back up into that the plastic tray from the 210, and you load it into a camera, and then you just gaff tape the lens on the camera and force it to shoot, and then it will
there you go, Mike.
pop that through.
Wow. It's crafty.
Yeah, there's also, I think LomoGraflok came out with one. They have that little hand crank adapter that you could just force that through. If you're really artsy craftsy and you already have maybe like a brayer, one of those really nice acrylic rollers for printmaking or lino cut, press printing, you could also just kind of in the dark, you smush it out and move the paste yourself. But I don't know, that feels a little
you could just buy a steamroller.
Yeah,
throw them under there.
Hey, Mike Grasso here. Since we recorded this segment, LomoGraflok has come out with their Graflok 4x5 back for Instax wide film. It's brand new, and here's the LomoGraflok spot for it.
My name is Jahan. I'm the founder of the Develop brand. That's Do You Develop on Instagram. I'm a member of the All Format Collective, and I'm an artist and a photographer. Since I've been shooting analog for quite some time, I always wanted to take things slower, and I think large format is kind of like the absolute way of taking photography in the most slow way possible, because there's just so many steps involved and so many things you need to do to really make that framework. Usually I do all my developing myself, but it still takes some time until you see actually what kind of frame you have. And since I don't have that peel apart film, I was actually really happy to just integrate something into the workflow to get fast photos. The features that the large format camera gives you, like the whole depth of field and tilting and shifting, so it's pretty cool to get that in an instant format. Definitely, I think the most practical thing that you can do is, like, if you're having your large format on like a photo shoot or something, and maybe you just want to test something, you want to see how a specific lighting condition works. So it's not only something that's very handy and that can help you in your workflow, but I think with the ability of being able to do like multiple exposures and stuff like that, I think you can get very creative with it. So I think it offers like a pretty big variety of things that you can do. Just having the ability of like getting the photo out straight away just opens up so many doors and into like creative fields that you can experiment with, and I think it's helpful. I think that's really the biggest benefit of it. Instax is so available, and it's not as volatile. Like, you can do a lot of things with it. Like, you can, like, the film's out and you can have it straight away in the sun or whatever. And the temperature effect isn't as strong as on like Polaroid films, for example.
That's pretty cool.
But I just think when someone's out there like innovating and making like, just really cool stuff, I love talking about it. So folks know, like, we are not being paid to talk any bit about this stuff.
You're
Mike,
totally geeking on it.
Yeah, I'm just geeking on it. It's really cool. Like, I don't even shoot a lot of 4x5, but I'm going to go shoot some Instax this weekend and do some portraits and have fun, because it's like,
I want to see that, man.
It's accessible. Yeah. Like, the other cool thing is, like, I've had the dialogue going with Jeff for months now on this holder, and he's one of those guys that you can tell he's a creator that also shoots, because he cares about like input. And if something's weird, or you say, hey, what if we did this? Like, he's like, cool, I did it. Here, check it out. Like, that's really neat. And having worked in retail, I guess I've become jaded with like these larger companies that they'll just like make something and it's off, and then they're like, whatever, buy the new one.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like really quick to get back, and I don't know.
He's got a great theme song. 20th century cameraman.
I agree. I agree. The support that Jeff at 20th Century gives is incredible. And he sent me an email, as a matter of fact, because we're selling the 4x5 6-sheet reels that
the developing reel
that goes into a Patterson tank, and a customer bought it cracked, and he emailed Jeff, and I told Jeff, I'm like, great, Jeff gets behind everything he sells, and I think that's very important. I think that's where I think that's where we bond.
He really cares, just like you do, yeah.
Because when someone sends the FPP a question, whatever it might be, a lot of times it's about developing or getting a blank piece of film or whatever it might be. I'm not just going to we don't give like a corporate stamp out. We honestly try to figure out what happened.
You consult with Leslie or Matt or Mark O'Brien or Mark Dalzell, whatever. Get it done. Get her done, Mike.
So yeah, so more power to him. So what else you got, Matt?
Well, this is just kind of like rolling off the cuff, but my little extra arts and crafts assignment for the weekend is my buddy Giles. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've talked about him on the podcast before. He's probably like the first wet plater I knew. He was going around traveling, shooting giant glass plates of folks. He's got like a big 16x20 camera. I think Red Bull did a feature on him like last year on shooting his wet plate stuff. He's a good dude. He sent me forever ago. He was in town. He used to be in Columbus, and now he's down in is he down in Tennessee now? Yeah, I think he's down south a little bit, and sometimes he stops up. He was like, hey, you ever heard of this aerial film stuff? And I was like, yeah, the big roll of ultra large format film. He's like, hey, do you think you could cut some of that up? And I was like, I think so. I've cut up X-ray film before. Shouldn't be any different. And I'd been like sitting on this thing forever. And just so happens I had access to one of those Rototrim now, like the big slide cutters, like the big professional mat cutter, paper cutter. So I'm going to be taking 200 feet of aerial film, which this aerial film is basically like XX. It's like AGFA's version of XX. And I'm going to be slicing that down into 8x10 inch sheets.
Sheets.
You're
Yeah.
going to do it right there in the garage?
I don't think I can make this place light tight. I can barely make it habitable temperature wise.
Where do you go? You haven't got a basement, have you?
I do. I got a basement, so I could do it down there. It's okay, but I'm probably just going to take it to the dark shop room. Yeah.
Well, I do have a message here from Paul Wagner, P Wagner 66 on Instagram.
Oh yes.
He says, I have 2 suggestions for the FPP store. And Matt, I look for your input on this because FPP store doesn't currently have it. Number 1, focusing loop for darkroom and larger printing, and 2, focusing loop for large format ground glass. So the fact that we don't have it, and it's not something like that's on the plate right now, where for folks that need focusing loops, where's the go-to?
There's not a lot of good go-tos at this time in loops. They are a weird sticking point. Like I've had large format sales that people are like, they kind of start questioning whether they should go through with it because they can't get the loop. And I don't know, I've never been disheartened because I don't have a magnifier, but right now the market kind of seems like you can get the like the little slide viewer ones, the little peak ones that are like 8x or 10x, they're all plastic. The market is basically a $10 loop and a $400 loop. There's no in between. There's like all that middle ground has kind of been hollowed out because they used to be made by like Schneider and Rodenstock, and now it's so even like the loops I picked up a few years back, those are pretty much gone on the market. So people are like paying way too much for used ones right now. So there's like a few manufacturers I've seen, most of them are coming out of China, that are making like copy versions, but yeah, it's a really weird market for those right now. And for darkroom printing, it's kind of the same. There's like the really cheapy $25, $30 plastic ones, and then there's like the really, really nice ones. So it's kind of weird. I think there's just less of that because loops were big when there was more people looking at slides, and now there's not as many people looking at slides. So it is definitely a niche market now.
Well, it's time to move on.
Well,
this has been a lot of fun, and we folks out there listening, watching, we appreciate and look forward to your comments. Podcast at filmphotographyproject.com.
yeah.
Or you could leave a comment at the bottom of the YouTube. Keep it nice.
Keep it super positive.
That's right. And I don't want to, I want to let people know that we also have our famous P.O. Box. P.O. Box 264, Fair Lawn, New Jersey, 07410.
How much mail do you get in there?
Not well. We get a lot of mail, but from FPP listeners.
Mail.
Oh, a few pieces here and there. We get Scooby snacks.
Keep those coming.
That's all gotta come from the ground.
Those are great. And I want folks to know that because we're doing some remote things now, it's not out of the question for me to turn something around to Matt or Leslie, to share.
Absolutely.
We're not going to just, hoggle.
What do you mean?
So let's say someone sends like some candy treats.
Oh, no.
What?
Mike, no. What are you going to do? Then send them to the
Send them to
Ohio?
Matt. Send it to Matt.
Yeah, right here.
No.
Okay.
Let him come and get them. Come and get them, pretty boy.
We just finished off those snacks from Christmas, Mike. We got to keep those coming.
Absolutely. So filmphotographyproject.com is the main site. Matt Marash is also on the interwebs. Matt with 1 T, mattmarash.com.
Yes, sir.
John Fideli, now on Instagram.
Big Head Sue 2, TOO.
And it's a very inspiring account, John.
Oh, thank you.
John's good with the camera, Matt.
Only my greatest hits are going up there.
Yeah, that's the way
That's how it goes.
Be.
Yeah.
So we'll see you folks very soon.
Yeah. Take it easy, guys.
My hand looked blurry there, Matt.
It looks like you have 12 fingers.
I know, it's crazy.
It's going great.
John's growing fingers.